Hello, everyone. I don't think the recording has started yet. Can we just make a deal? Just throw green cards in the box and we all go to the after party early? Yeah? No? Okay. $20 now. No. Okay, I'll do the session then. If you want to be part of this session, you absolutely can. Scan the QR code. Hopefully it works. If not, I blame ChatGPT. That's what I do these days. No, I had my Azure subscription disabled, which is a fun story for after this session, I guess. But try it out. You can be part of the session. You will be recorded probably, so it will be on screen, but I'll delete the data, which is just your name and your company. I think you can enter your picture. I don't think it even works, so you can try it, see what happens. That's basically what's going to happen during the session as well. It's going to be mostly live coding, so I don't know what's going to happen too. And while doing so, hopefully, I will show you how to kind of like build an app with Blazor Hybrid and do all the things. I will talk through it. It's a pretty small room, so you know, actually I've never been in Denmark doing a session yet, so I don't know kind of like how interactive you are. But if you're like, hey, I want to know that thing, just shout or do anything. I was in Zurich. I was in Switzerland like 2 weeks ago, and they're like very following the rules, so they're like, yeah, we're not going to do that. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Cool. So then who am I? Like I said, first time in Denmark, well, for doing a session at least. My name is Gerald. I live in the Netherlands, so it's not that far. Working remotely for Microsoft on the .NET team, .NET MAUI specifically, so building cross-platform apps based on C# and .NET, all that kind of goodness. Running it on iOS, Android, Windows, macOS, all these kinds of things. I also do a little thing on YouTube, so if that's your thing, if you want to learn a little bit more, please go watch there. And if you have any questions, I'm basically on every social media channel that you can find, with some unpronounceable handle that I'm not even going to try. I just thought like initials, last name. I'm never going to be like, I don't know, going out there doing sessions, but here we are. Else I would have gone with a cool stage name like Lars Klint or something like that. Maybe if you're, is there anyone who's kind of like aspiring to be a public speaker or who is already doing it, except Lars? Oh yeah, and you. Hi, Dominic. Okay, cool. So maybe that was me like 10 years ago. I don't know, because I'm getting old. But there's a whole thing going on, right? Like there's a conference, and NDC in this case will say like, hey, we are hosting this conference, we have a venue, we have a date, we have these, well, the amazing speakers, that's what I'm getting to. So we have a date, we have a venue, and we want to fill that with sessions, right, with speakers. So what they do then is they open a CFP, call for papers, call for speakers, whatever you want to call it. There's a couple of variations. And 10 years ago, there was not this system. You had to, I don't know, did we write letters? What did we do? It was a whole system. Everyone had their own system, Google Forms or whatever. Now we have Sessionize is what it's called. Not super important if you don't want to ever do this anyway, but this system makes it super easy. I can have a portfolio of sessions. Event like NDC can say, hey, I want to have sessions that have to do with .NET, Java, UX security, all these kinds of things. And then we as speakers can say like, okay, I think I have a session that fits whatever you want to see, so we submit it, and they accept or deny, super easy. And then as kind of like as part of this, they have an API, Sessionize, and so other people can build things on top of that, right? So who's already using the official NDC app right now? Well, not right now, but you've been using it. Okay, cool, that's not bad. So that's what we were trying to recreate with Blazor Hybrid, because no disrespect to whoever made this, I should actually look that up. I mean, the concept is not super complex, right? Like, it's a list of speakers, it's a list of sessions, a little information about the venue, a little information about the event itself, so it shouldn't be too hard to actually create this, right? So that's what we're going to see, that's what we're going to live code, and right here, right now, with Blazor Hybrid. Oops, I don't know how that got here. So let's just dive into code, right? And to make things more interesting, I don't know if you've been following the news, but there's a new Visual Studio finally after 4 years, 3 years. Visual Studio 2022 was getting a bit outdated, so now we have Visual Studio 2026. Finally, I can show it because I've had it on my computer for a long time and I had to hide it from you. But now I can finally show it because it's public. So let's make it more interesting. I installed that just at the hotel just before I got here. So let's see how that goes. And if you have installed this, which I can actually show now too. So if you've installed Visual Studio, who here is already using .NET MAUI, Blazor Hybrid? Okay, Xamarin before that? Okay. Not that much. Okay, interesting. So you can go to the installer if you haven't done that yet. Because if you actually want to do this, this landscape is a little bit more complex than your typical .NET application. So I got 3 installations next to each other. Doesn't really matter which one I take. Where's my mouse? There we go. So if I do the insiders one, that's the one that you'll see as well. And I do modify. If you do a new installation, you'll see this as well. You'll have all these workloads, and one of these is .NET MAUI, right? So that stands for .NET Multi-Platform App UI. Right here. Sorry for all the glitching around. You check that, and it will install all the bits that you need for actual cross-platform development, right? So you will get all that. Make sure that you have that one, or just modify it in the installer to get it now if you have Visual Studio already installed. And whenever you do that, this is kind of like the new welcome screen. So the list is a little bit more compact. You can see all the new cool things, and the buttons here are a little bit smaller too. So you can create new project, right? That's what we're going to do. And then you can find a variation, a lot of different templates here, right? So the ones that we'll be looking at is a .NET MAUI Blazor Hybrid app. So you can do this also with .NET MAUI. Then you'll be doing like a lot of XAML probably, and that will translate to how these controls should look like on each platform, right? So if you're going to define a button, it will look like how a button should look like on iOS or Android or Windows, depending on the platform that you're going to target. With Blazor, .NET MAUI Blazor Hybrid, we keep kind of like changing the name. So whenever I say some variation, I always mean the same thing. I think that the name that we typically go with is Blazor Hybrid. But it's built on top of .NET MAUI. I'll get to that in a little bit. Whenever you do that, you're going to build it with Blazor. So basically, the only thing that you do is replace that whole UI layer with XAML and buttons and how it should look like on that platform with a web UI, right? So it will look exactly the same across each platform, and you can build everything with Razor files instead of with XAML, etc. So let's go with that one. Let's click next here. Then need to zoom out a little bit. I need to give it a name, MAUI app. Let's do it NDC Copenhagen, the best, green. Okay, next. And then we need to choose, like, hey, a couple of things, right? Like, hey, do we need to do that in .NET 10? Let's be experimental. Let's do that. Actually, while I'm here, if you're going to look into this, this is like the #1 question. I made a video about it. That's how often I got the question. .NET MAUI does not participate in LTS, STS, like the .NET things. So if that's important to you or your company, just be on the latest stuff for .NET MAUI, right? Because we're dependent on iOS and Android and whatever, and they update every year, we kind of like have to follow that. So it's not like .NET 8 is now the version that you need to use. No, you should be on .NET 9. .NET 8 is actually out of support for us, right? So for overall .NET, very much in support. Long-term support version. For .NET MAUI, not so much, right? And you should be on .NET 10 come November, whenever that comes out. Include sample pages. Yeah, let's do that. Sounds good. We can also now enlist in Aspire orchestration. That's cool too. So whenever you want to do that, if that's of interest to you, you can hook up your .NET MAUI app in Aspire as well. Let's create that. It's going to think a little bit. It's going to create our new project. And what we'll see is a single project. So there were not a lot of people who have worked with Xamarin before. If you had, then you might be used to seeing multiple projects, which has been like, hey, a shared project where all your shared code is, and then a project separately for iOS and Android and Windows, depending on the platforms that you want to target, right? Which makes sense, because at the end of the day, you still have to deliver a binary that will work on that platform, right? So it's not like Apple's going to say, yeah, send over that exe file and we'll make it work on the App Store. We're not friends like that. You still have to deliver an IPA or an AAB on Android right now. So from that standpoint, it kind of makes sense. But from the developer standpoint, not ideal, because now you have to, whenever you're going to use an image inside of your app, you have to duplicate that over these projects, right? Once for iOS and one for Android and one for Windows. And then also, especially for Android, you're going to have like a gazillion different screen sizes and scales and whatever, right? So you have to provide images for each scaling and each whatever. So you had to do that multiple times. So we fixed that. We put it all in one project. That makes it super easy to manage these resources, to manage your fonts, to do a lot of stuff. And then you can just switch here to whatever target you want to run on, right? So what you can see here, I see, because I just installed it, settings are not great for viewing it, so whenever it's not actually readable, the screens are not really helpful too. So let's blow it up even more. Please let me know, just shout. So then, Blazor Hybrid application, this is what you get. And what we'll see here is like, hey, one project, which is going to launch all these different things. And if you, who's worked with Blazor before then at least? Okay, that's more. I see a couple of people there. Are you even .NET developers? Are you Java? What are you doing? No, it's fine. Okay, then you'll see some from it. So let me just run it, actually. Let me just switch over to, let's do on Windows. That's always the fastest if you're developing on Windows. And you'll see that if you've done a Blazor application before, because I left that checkbox with sample pages intact, you will see kind of like the file new Blazor application right here, but now running as a native application. And that's really cool because the second most question that I get, besides like, hey, the LTS question, the second question that I get is, hey, how does that work with Blazor in a .NET MAUI app, right? Is that like, hey, do we launch a web host in the background and serve everything that way? No, none of that, right? Because Blazor is a native .NET application. So the only thing web about it is the HTML and the CSS that we kind of like render through a web view. But all the rest is a .NET application. So if you do this, we have the .NET runtime running on iOS, Android, Windows, macOS through .NET MAUI. So we can just run that Blazor application directly as a .NET application on all of these platforms. So it's not like we're creating a web server in the background. We cannot even do that because iOS would never allow that into the App Store, right? Android probably not too, but iOS is more strict as well. So that we couldn't even do that. So the only kind of like thing that is web about this is how it looks and feels and that you can develop with these web technologies. So we've got this, and it's all like, because it's got like Bootstrap, I think, installed by default, right? Whenever you add the sample pages, at least, it's also super responsive, right? So if I do this, it all kind of like collapses, and you get the little hamburger menu, and we can do all of that, right? So we got all of that for free. While if you would be using .NET MAUI, then you would have to do a little bit of effort to make that work too. And if I then just switch over here, this is a little atypical too for a .NET application. If you go to the Run menu here, by the way, Visual Studio 2026. Something with 26 looks amazing, right? All the round corners and everything. Normally they applaud here, but that's fine. So you can just switch between all the different platforms here, right? So you can open this. Typically, if you do a web project, I think you have like HTTP, HTTPS, kind of like all the profiles that you have in there. Here you'll have all the devices, all the platforms that you can run on. So you will have like Windows, Android, iOS. You can connect your Mac to this Windows machine and get the iOS simulator right here. But let's start with Android right here, and it usually takes some amount of time to do the first deploy. So while that's going on, I'll talk a little bit further. But right now, without changing any code, I'm just deploying this exact same code, .NET code, C# code, to an Android emulator in this case, right? You can also connect your Android device if that's what you want, and it would work the exact same. So we got that. Now, how does that whole Blazor Hybrid thing work together with .NET MAUI? So like I said, if you were going to do .NET MAUI, you were going to do XAML typically. So you still see a XAML page here, but let's start with this MAUI program.cs, which is just your program.cs. But we already had a program.cs in the iOS platform. I'll show you that in a little bit. So we had to rename this one a little bit, but this is just your program.cs, which is normally the entry point for your .NET application. And here, even if you've never done MAUI before, if you've done ASP.NET before, which is typically the case, that's kind of like the entry level that people do, you will recognize some things here, right? We have the application builder right here. In this case, we're configuring some fonts. That's not super typical, but we have like builder.services, so we have some dependency injection already going on, in this case for our MAUI Blazor web view, some other things, and I can just start doing my dependency injection here as well, right? I can just do builder.services. I cannot type under pressure, so I don't know why I keep doing sessions. Services.add transient, right? So you can do transient, you can do singleton, you can do all these things, and you can just use dependency injection just as you're used to from ASP.NET or any other .NET-based project, basically. So we got that. That's all good. We already recognize that. So we've never done cross-platform development before, but that's something that we kind of like recognize, and that lowers the barrier for you to get started. Then kind of like the first thing that you'll see is this main page.xaml. Now, this is still a little bit of .NET MAUI right here. Like I said, Blazor Hybrid is built on top of .NET MAUI, and the way this is implemented is that we have a specialized web view, which is a Blazor web view. And that control is not only built for .NET MAUI, it's also built for WinForms and WPF. So if you're still doing that, that's great too. You can kind of like modernize your legacy application from inside out. If you want to build a Blazor application kind of like side by side, you can do that. You need to be on .NET 6 at the very least with your WPF or WinForms project. Preferably .NET 8, of course, or .NET 10 that's coming. But then you can use this Blazor web view and host a Blazor application or just a piece of Blazor inside of kind of like your old school legacy application and start working from there. So that's really cool. But you can also use it with .NET MAUI. You can see a couple of things. Blazor web view, cool. We give it a little name so that we have a reference in our code behind. I'll show you that in a minute. A host page, it's still web, right? So we still need to host it. So we have here in our Solution Explorer a www root with index.html. That's just your HTML. And then in here, this app identifier is where we are going to load, inject our actual application, right? So that's what you see here, select your app. That's where we're going to inject our Blazor application. And what are we going to inject there? This component type, which is components routes, depending on where you are in the world. They pronounce it a little bit differently, I think. And that's something that you can see here in components .razor. And this is kind of like your bridge to the Blazor world. So beyond this, you never have to see any XAML or whatever again. You just have to, you can build your application in Blazor, in Razor, if that's what you want, right? So this is kind of like a specialized file right here. But if you then go look a little bit further, then we have our pages right here, and we have our different things. So we have the home, the weather, right? That's the sample pages, and the counter right here. And if we then go back to our running application now in Android, now we have the exact same application right here. What is a new project without incrementing something? So we've got that, and then a little bit of a weather forecast, right? So there we have that. And then again, like if you were rotating your device, you suddenly have a little bit more screen estate, so it will automatically put that sidebar there because it's super responsive out of the box. Okay, cool. So we got all that. Now, actually, let's start building. Well, one more thing I wanted to show you. So this is all of your shared code, right? So as long as you kind of like stay in there, it will be shared across iOS, Windows, macOS, all the platforms. If you do have the need for platform-specific code, we do have this platforms folder in here. And that's this, whenever you go into one of these folders, that's kind of like the entry point for each platform. So here for iOS, we have like, hey, the entry point, that program.cs that I mentioned, the app delegate. Sounds scary. It's still C# and .NET, right? So we have C# and .NET counterparts for everything. So you can still go in here, write C# and .NET, but you will have to now look at iOS namespaces in this case, or Android, right? And what the kind of like cool thing about this is that at some point, if you're going to be serious about this, at some point you will hit this. As easy as we'll make it, there will always be more APIs available on the native platforms that we will service with .NET MAUI or Blazor Hybrid. So you will want to do something where you're like, I know this is available on iOS. But the cool thing is that you can just go to Stack Overflow, if that's still a thing. We don't do that anymore, right? We just ask Copilot everything. And it will give you code in Objective-C. That's typically what you use, or Swift for iOS. And you can just add a couple of capitals and a couple of semicolons, and then boom, you have C# code, right? All the types, all the things are usually named the same, just cased and stuff for how C# does things. So you can just take that code, typically move it over, and then you can use it in your .NET MAUI application. And then in here also you'll have like your info plist, and for Android it's kind of like a similar concept, but different thing. The Android manifest, which is like your metadata for your app. That is the name that's going to show up on your home screen, the icon that's going to show up on your home screen, all the permissions are there. So all these kinds of things that all mobile apps have, but they're just defined in a little bit different dialect of XML, right? That's how it works. Cool, so let's just actually start implementing some things. Now, I've prepared a little server that you know, if you scan the QR code, you gave me all your data. That's great. Thank you for that. And now that's uploaded and combined with all the data that I got from Sessionize from the actual event, right? I hacked the official NDC app, I got the backend from there, and I got all the data. So we've done all that, and I can now use that to build the actual app. So as we do in C# and .NET, we're going to create a new folder, right? And we do services. Let's start with that. So we're going to create a new service and new file right here, new class. New Visual Studio, super fast, right? Typically it's like lagging and whatever, it's super fast. I'm trying to sell it to you. Who already installed Visual Studio 2026? Yes, that one. Oh, yeah, that's cheating. He's doing an internship at Microsoft, so he's on my team. I know him. He's cheating. But that other guy, good job. All the rest of you, do it right after the session. What was I doing? Okay, so let's call it the NDC service. That's fine. And there we go. Now, so you don't have to watch me type all the things. I'm going to use a little bit AI in a little bit. You were probably all at Jody's keynote, right? And we were all a little bit tired of AI, but you know, I work at Microsoft, so I'm contractually obligated to talk about it for a little bit. But now I also have a snippet right here. You know, you can make those yourself. So you have like prop, right? Those are built in prop, and then you do tab, and then you get boom, you get a property. This was all before AI. We don't need any of this anymore. But you have these built-in snippets, which is really cool, or CTOR, right? Did you know this? CTOR? Oh, not extractor. Demo fail. CTOR, I think? No? Sorry? Oh, there we go. It's context-aware too. You don't have a class. Oh, there's the interaction. Okay, cool. This was totally on purpose. Thank you for that. But you can create your own as well. So you will have the event service, tab, and we have the full service, right? So you don't have to watch me type all this code. Actually, while I'm here, disclaimer time, the code that I'm about to show you and write right here does not necessarily have the standards that we adhere at Microsoft, right? I'm going to take shortcuts. I'm going to write some very miserable code that you should not do at home, just because we only have, I don't know, 40 minutes left. So this does not represent the code that I usually write, okay? Just to give you a little... yeah, so this is just your typical service, right? Event service, I used a little bit different name. I named the file NDC service, but it's the same concept, which will get the data from our backend, right? And I have two endpoints, the server speaker and the server session. So whenever we go here, I still don't know why this pretty print checkbox is not on by default. Who wants to watch this? No one. So why is this not on by default? And then Tony has probably submitted something of raw power games is the tech wizard you never knew you needed. You have to do the voice yourself, but then it really kind of like carries with Viking power. Yes, cool. So this is already AI powered, and there's Batman, and I'm sure that's Lars because that's what he does. The Dark Knight of Serverless reacting to Windows Phone, and now I'm sure it's Lars. So, you know, you inputted your name, your company, and then I let a little bit of ChatGPT generate some funny session and bio for you. So we got all that. We got the sessions right here. That's cool. This was the speakers. We got some sessions too. So that's cool. Kind of like the same data, right? Like super simple JSON that's going on here with Lego castles, blah, blah, blah. Cool. So we got that. We need some models to get that, but otherwise we have get speakers, HTTP client. You don't want to create a new HTTP client all the time, right? That's not something that you want to do. But then get a string, so you get the string, the whole thing, async, parse that whole thing, and then we'll just return that as a list for the speakers, for the sessions, and let's just start with that and see where we end up. So we want to import this, that's fine, JSON serializer, we've got that one. What we don't have is the models yet, and again, this is just good .NET citizenship, so do add, new folder, models, right? I'm not even going to bother with the interfaces. Typically, we love to add interfaces to all the things. I'm not going to do that now. We can just do dependency injection without all the interfaces too. Shocking, I know. So let's do speaker. We got that. Speaker class, tap. There we go. No AI needed, Copilot, haha, checkmate. Okay, so very simple model, speaker, name, company bio, image URL, nothing fancy here. And then do the same for session, right? Which is also super simple. Title and abstract probably. Session. Session class. Boom, boom. There we go. Title, abstract, room starts at. Well, that makes sense. Okay, let me import these JSON things here so that it all serializes nicely, deserializes nicely. We got that. Add the import for this one. All right. All right. This all looks green. This all looks good. Perfect. Let's close a couple things here. Now we kind of like I said, dependency injection works the exact same way as other .NET projects, right? So if we go into this Maui program right here, and I say, hey, I want to do builder dot services dot add singleton, right? We can. It doesn't have any state, so we can do this as a singleton. That's fine. No, bad copilot. It's not weather forecast service. It is event service, right? Event service, which is right here. Okay, so we got that. So if you want to do it with an interface, so you can swap it out, you can do it like this, right? I event service, and then like this, right? We have registered the one, and we get the I event service. Okay, perfect. Now, what I want to do is get this inside of my main page, right? So I want to have this in my main page too, which we probably don't want to have as a singleton. Add transient, there we go. And we get it there. And then we might also want to have a view model. Do we really care about that? I'm just going to do it in the main page. No, I want you to be good developers. So I'm going to do a view model. So let's do add view models, right? Page model, page view model, whatever you want to do, doesn't really matter. And we're going to add new class, and we're going to say, actually, what is it called? I don't know, main view model, because I stuck with the view model, right? Okay, there we go. Main view model, perfect. Make it public. Let's see if that CTOR works here. CTOR, yes, thank you. So we got this. And now if we want to have something injected, we just can say, hey, I want to have that event service right here. Event service, boom. I need to get the thingies right and then import that. So we get that injected. All right. We got this. And I need to register it here also. Main page, what did I say? Oh, see, there we go. Should have gone with page model, main view model. Super not confusing. All right, there we go. Got that one. Registered everything, so we can inject all the things. And then I need to view model in my main page. And the cool thing here is if you know a little bit about Blazor, and most of you did, then we can now here go into the page right here, pages, home, and we can say, hey, add page / that's fine, I'll just keep it like this. We can also mix kind of like the ways to do this. So if you want to inject something in a Razor page, this is the way to do it. You can do add inject. And the dependency injection container is shared between kind of like your .NET MAUI layer and your Blazor Hybrid layer because it's all the same thing. So you can now here just say, hey, I want to have that event service, the view model, of course. Actually, because this is the Blazor one, I'm not sure if I'm going to stick with the view model, but let's see. The main page, sorry, I should have gone with the other one. Main view model. Do it like that. That's fine. And then I also need to add the using. Fine. View model. There we go. View model. Okay, this is going great. So now it injects that, and I can access it here. So what I should be able to do is now say, hey, you can add a code block, right? So you can do this in Razor. You can have this add code whenever you see this. Do you have a name for this in Denmark? The add sign? Sorry? Of course. The snipply. Does it stand for anything? Is it like... So let me explain. In Dutch, it's the apenstaartje, which is literally translated the monkey's tail because it goes like. There you go. Oh, funny. Right. Yeah. Okay, so you went with an elephant, we went with a monkey. It's fine. So whenever you kind of like see the snippet, then you know kind of like you're making the connection to C#, right? So you can mix. You've already seen that just now. I removed it, but this was just regular HTML, right? But if we go into kind of like this page, the counter one. then you'll see like, hey, HTML, HTML, that's all great. But here you can see these, I even forgot the apostage, the @ sign, on click, right? So then you know like, hey, here we're going to connect to something in the C# world. And this all has like equivalents of like, hey, you can also do the on click because this is still HTML, right? So it has all the HTML attributes here as well. But you can see it here too with, hey, again, like paragraph, this is just some text. And then here, the @ sign, and then we suddenly refer, you can see it with the syntax highlighting too, we refer to a C# variable here. So we can just do the data binding this way. It will update automatically, right? We've just seen that. I clicked it a couple of times. No JavaScript or anything needed. It will just see like, hey, I'm referring to this variable right here. It updates its value. It invalidates the whole thing and updates the UI as well. There are times when that doesn't work. You have to kind of like nudge it like, hey, the UI updated, because especially if you're doing it from another UI thread or from another thread or something. But typically it will pick up very well on changes and it will do that automatically. And here you can see like, hey, on click, you can just refer to this kind of like event handler, if you will, and start doing things this way. So perfect. If we start doing things here, again, okay, let's start with the page title. Okay, yeah, sounds good. And then Copilot. What's then? No, that seems a little bit excessive. Let's not do that. So what we want to do then is, it's getting there, it's getting there. Let's give it a little bit more context. So let's do that add code block first. And we want to kind of like, yes, do on initialized async, which is a built-in event from Blazor, which is triggered whenever a page is being initialized, right? You have also a non-async one if you do want to do non-async stuff. Actually, that's probably what we want, because I'm not really doing anything async stuff. Again, not, example code, I can get away with it. But we can say view model. I don't have anything actually yet, right? So let's go to our view model. We have that event service, which is great. So let's do private event service, and we can say this event service is event service. Yes, perfect. Okay, so we got that, and then we can say, hey, I want to have this public method. Public method? What am I doing? Public. Let's do a list of sessions. Session. Go away. All these helpful things. No. Did I call it session? I did call it session. Interesting. Session get sessions. And we're going to return event server get sessions. That seems appropriate. Not sure why it's not picking up on this one. Using NDC models, yes. Okay. Why is it not happy? Task. Okay, so I need to do. Wait, async task. So I'm gonna do it async. Anyway. And then we can do here get session async. Well, sessions, but that's fine. Sessions. There we go. Which is, oh wait, and then everything is happy. Oh, perfect. So now whenever the page loads, we will get these sessions in here. And what we can do then is, if we move it outside of this block, we don't need to have a class or anything. It can even be a private field. I can just say private list sessions is new list. No, I'm not going to make it a new list, and I'll tell you why in a little bit. And again, yes, using this. Sessions, and now it can be null, right? It's like, oh, it needs to be nullable, everything's on fire. And whenever we're going to do this, I can now here leave this var out, and it will just assign it to that. It will just get the sessions here. So what I can do now is say, again, add if sessions is null. Copilot. Nothing? Okay. It can say, hey, loading. And else we can for each. Do I need to do another @ sign? I don't think so. We're still in this thing. Var session. Oh my goodness. What's that? Var session in sessions. Yes, yes, sort of. I don't really have a session card, I guess, but we could do that. I'm just gonna do, let's make a unordered list thing. And just the old school, right? Like PHP, who didn't start with that? We're just gonna mix all these things together. Okay, now I need the actual @ sign here for this to pick up. And then I'm gonna do list item at session dot title, right? Title. Perfect. Now, the cool thing is, we have the sessions, right? And it's complaining like, oh, it's null, blah, blah, blah. That's fine. I'll just mark it as nullable, and now we're good. Because now I can say, hey, whenever it's null, I can say loading, right? And it's going to be super fast. Actually, let me just run this and see if everything works. And you will see, like, super fast, it will say loading. And whenever the data gets refreshed, it will load it from here. It will automatically pick it up. It will reevaluate it, and it will go through this else statement right here and print out this thing right here. So you have not to worry. Yes, it can be a lot fancier than this about like loading indicators and whatever. Like this is your super crude loading indicator right here. Whenever sessions is null, there's nothing to show. We show loading as a text, and then whenever some data does show up, it will automatically refresh and it will show up on the screen right here. So whenever we run that, we should see at least kind of like the sessions in a list that is coming from the back end. Now, as I promised that you're looking out to, I know, is use a little bit of AI, because I'm not the best designer, right? And honestly, Copilot isn't always as well, but at least it does a better job than me. So what we can kind of like ask then is say maybe, hey, this design for this page, there isn't really a design. Can you please help me with building out this page a little bit to at least give me something that looks half decent instead of just a list of boring titles right here. So let's just see if this is actually working. Loading, there we go, see? Still loading, and there we get all the list of titles. Yes, okay, so we got something. Still no applause? Okay, that's fine. Move on. So let's do that, right? We have the Copilot button right here. And explain me things, yada, yada, yada. So just to zoom in literally on this a little bit, you can select the models, right? Who's been using AI already inside of their Visual Studio Code things, everything, yeah? Daily? Who's using it daily? Oh, interesting. Okay. I definitely am. You can select all the models here, and you can say, hey, ask or agent mode, right? So if you do agent mode, it can do basically work for you, which is amazing. So you can feed it with context, so I can say, whoops, I cannot switch around to all the things here and confuse you. So I can say, oh my goodness, the pound sign, you probably have a fancy name for that as well, and you can refer to all kinds of files, right? Or the solution, or a method, and you can say, hey, look at this thing, to really zoom in on that and give Copilot the context that it needs. That will make the experience so much better. But in general, we can just say, hey, please look at this page and implement a card view for each session. Any other requests? Use a shade of green with a gradient to make it look modern. Show all the properties we have of a session. Do not use, well, actually, look at the styles and CSS we already have available and use those. You have to be like super explicit with all this stuff, right? I selected Claude right here. The GPT-5 one is pretty good as well. You kind of like have to play with each of the models and see what the different. Is that me? Do I have a game in the background? With all the different models and how to kind of like behave and how you need to interact with them. But typically, how I like to think of them, I have 2 young kids. They're 5 and 7. Typically, I have to talk the same way to my Copilot as I talk to my kids. Like, you have to do this. You don't have to do that. Just stay here. Do this one thing. Don't get distracted with all this other stuff. And then usually you get a pretty good result, right? But if you're not that specific, it will go off and be like, oh, I'm doing this design. Why not do it for the whole app? Like, no, I just want you to stick to this this page, right? And say like, hey, I already have Bootstrap installed. Just give it that context. Else, it might miss that, and it will go out and pull in like, I don't know, what's cool these days, Tailwind CSS. I'm just saying words now. It will pull that in, and do all kinds of things with that. Couldn't read errors in whatever. Okay, so it's trying to do things, and you can kind of like see, right? This is the whole diff here. It's doing a lot. It's still pulling all the CMC. It's not listening to me. Bad Copilot. Go into naughty steps. It's still pulling in like all kinds of CSS right here, which is something you might or might not want to do. But you can kind of like inspect and follow the whole process here inside of this chat window with like, hey, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. If you're using VS Code, which I typically do a little bit more, I use both. But you can also inspect kind of like per step what the diff is. Oh, I think that there are these ones. So if you click on this one, you can kind of like see, hey, for this step, you can also actually see like, hey, I deleted 13 lines and added 172, right? So you can click on that and really inspect like, okay, what did you do for this step? Because it's still a co-pilot, right? It's kind of like your intern, your junior developer, new colleague, whatever, that you still have to kind of like go through whatever they created. But it will give you a nice summary. This is what I did. Modern card design with green gradient. Cool. Emojis, all the things in there. So let's see. Let's see what it did. Let's deploy it on Android. And there you go. We should have an amazing new design. I'm going to be as surprised as you are, basically, because that's the cool thing about demos with AI. It's going to be different from time to time. But I could not type all of this in the time that this. Not bad, right? Keynote tells me the time, the main stage, September 10, the dark night of serverless reacting to Windows phones. Still cool. So it's not bad, right? I don't necessarily need the whole abstract in here, so maybe that's something. But it's, and what I was saying before I got interrupted by this amazing, cool, good-looking design is that you cannot even type all of this HTML in the time that Copilot did it, right? So even there, this is just a huge productivity boost. Cool. So far, the commercial from Microsoft. Yes? To make it pop more? Can you? Okay, but then I'm also going to remove the abstract. Just titles and make it pop more. This is on you, if this is. I can see your current code has a mixed HTML structure with both UI and L. That's your own code. But I don't know. Let me clean this up and make titles pop more by removing the abstract and enhancing the visual design. Sounds good. So this is really cool, and this is like agent mode running inside of VS Code and Visual Studio. You also have like, sorry, I said the commercial was over, but I'm genuinely also very enthusiastic about this stuff, not just because I have to, but I definitely use it every day. And you can also now, if you're using GitHub, you can go to GitHub. I think in VS Code you already have a button here too that kind of like says, hey, run it in the cloud or whatever, and it just assigns this thing to a coding agent in the cloud. And you don't have to kind of like watch it go through here. It will just, go off while you don't have to watch it. It doesn't cost you any cycles here in Visual Studio. So it will do its work on its own and notify you when it's done. And you can just focus on the next thing. Same thing if you're using GitHub and you create an issue. Issues can be created by Copilot as well, right? And you can just assign Copilot on that issue and it will go off and work on that. And it will open a PR for you. And then you can say, hey, add Copilot, so the little @ sign. I want to change a little bit of this, and then it will go off and do that again, right? So super cool stuff if you ask me. I'm now going to run this and see how it pops more, and then we have a little bit of time to maybe, there's at least one more thing I want to kind of like talk to combine .NET MAUI and Blazor Hybrid, if you will. But first, Lars, does this loading sessions, does it pop more? It's exactly the same. Yeah, but maybe that works for your boss too. If it says, "Oh, make it pop more," you just tweak it a little bit and say, "Here it is." Yes, this is exactly what I mean. Oh, there we go. It's literally popping. Wow, good eye. Yeah, that's perfect. That's very useful on mobile too. And it makes it run much, much slower. Okay, cool. So we got this. Now, then kind of like the next thing is, we have the tabs implemented through kind of like that top bar that we have, right? That comes from HTML, and we add things there. But maybe if we want to go more for that look of the actual NDC app, I actually don't know on the Android one because I'm on iOS typically. On Android, does it have like the top bars on the NDC app? Do you know? Doesn't matter. You have kind of like the dedicated tabs, right? Whether they're on the bottom or on the top. They're on the top. No, not the dates. Oh, you have it on the bottom too. Yeah, perfect. Okay. So let's see if we can do that. And there you can really combine Blazor Hybrid with .NET MAUI, which is really cool. Because the tabs, all the platforms have tabs built in. Now with iOS, who's iOS? Liquid Glass, right? Yeah. All Android fans, all right? So Liquid Glass, like the tab bar looks amazing now. And we get all that stuff for free with .NET MAUI because we translate everything to how it's supposed to look like on each platform. So if we go back to a little bit of XAML right here, be gone, Copilot. So what you see here, this is the Blazor web view, right? But it's hosted inside of a content page. So this Blazor web view is just another element inside of the .NET MAUI toolbox. So if you just define it like this, your whole screen will be a Blazor web view, as we've seen. But you can also make it a little piece. So if you have like a .NET MAUI app, or you want to build a .NET MAUI app, and you have a Blazor web application, and you're only like, oh, I want to really use this custom control that I built in Blazor, which really mimics Liquid Glass and is amazing, and I want to use that in my app, you totally can, right? But what you can also do is make this a tabbed page, right? That's something that's built into .NET MAUI. Now this is going to complain because we cannot just put elements in there. You have to have pages. And now we can say content page, so I just basically move that down. Title, home, title, what did it do? Sessions, right? Let's do that. You can even give it an icon if that's what you want. And boom, wrap it in this content page. And now we have this one tab that has our sessions. And if we would do another one, I could do content page with title is speakers, right? That will be like the next one. Unfortunately, we don't really have the time to go into that too deep, but you could have that one. And what you can then do is have another Blazor web view. Let's do that just for fun. So let's do that. But what you can also do is now have this content page and start using build errors. And you can start using .NET MAUI elements in there, right? So you can have that labeled, a button and whatever. So if you're going to go down that route, then it's going to be really hard. It's going to take you a good amount of effort to kind of like have the look and feel across both of these worlds, right? With Blazor and your native. And for the user experience, you really want to have those both kind of like in sync, that the user cannot really tell like, hey, am I using one or the other? So typically you will see that people will stick with Blazor Hybrid or .NET MAUI and not both. But you can absolutely do that if that's what you want. Okay, a couple of build errors which were totally prepared, so let's work through those. Partial declarations of main page. Okay, a little pro tip right here. So if you have XAML pages, those have code behinds because XAML is nothing more than syntactic sugar, basically. It still boils down to C#. And you can see this is like a partial class, right? So this main page.xaml.cs is a partial class with main page.xaml. And so, that needs to be in sync. So we changed that from a content page to a tabbed page. And the beauty here is, I don't know why we have this in the templates, because you can just remove it here, and it will know from the XAML that it's a tab page. So we don't even need it. So you don't have to keep this in sync with tab page. No, we're not doing that. So that's this one. One error down. What's the rest? Ambiguity between Blazor Web View and Blazor Web View. Yes, that's because I copy and pasted. Let's go back here to my XAML thing. And 10 points for the one who knows what this is. No one? Okay, let's continue. So we have this reference, right? This creates a reference in the C# code behind, and now we have two references, so two variables with the same name. So just add a 1, and now everything works again. So whenever you do this, and now we're running it on Android, and I could switch over to Windows, and it will look different, because what will happen now, this tab page thing is something that lives in .NET MAUI. So now it will look like the tabs on how they typically look and feel inside of Android, right? It'll have the cool ripple effect probably somewhere here. and you can switch between the two. And what it does now is like, hey, it has the full Blazor web view in here, and if we now switch over to Windows, again, like I'm not changing any code, I don't have anything up my sleeves, it's not a magic trick, it's the exact same code running on another platform. And then you will see it will look typically like how tabs will look like these days on Windows 11 using WinUI, etc., etc. So, you know, you can, all kinds of choices. See, now we have the tabs right here. All kinds of choices that you can use. You can go for, like, hey, use tabs in HTML, CSS. There's probably some good library for that. Or you can do this. And then again, you can start building your page here, right? You can say, hey, label text is hello, Copenhagen. And if we run that again, you will see like, hey, a label is not a great example, but you will see like this is an actual native component that comes from .NET MAUI, and you can start building your page like that instead of like this Blazor thing. Now, one thing that you also, because this looks, oh, Hoover, cool. Really pops, huh? So one other thing that you can do with this is now it's kind of like funny, right? We have that navigation bar from Blazor as well. So that's typically not what you want if you're going to work with these tabs. So what we can do then is not here with this component type point to the roots, right? Because this roots is kind of like a special Blazor thing, which will kind of like index all the pages and give you that whole main layout it's wrapping in, right? It has this default layout. There's multiple ways to kind of like solve this, but you can also point it directly to a page. So what we can do here in this XAML is say, hey, don't do components. Well, actually, we do components. XML and NES, so this is kind of like your using statement in XAML, and we're going to do pages is, I think actually we should be able to do it in components, so I'll just keep it like this, but not do the routes. Wait, I'm gonna look where this is. Oh, it's components pages, okay. So we're still gonna add this, XML and NES, pages is components dot pages, there we go. So this kind of like makes this whole line go away, and you can just access it by pages. And what I can say then is pages, colon, counter home weather, right? So now I can access these pages directly. So what I can do here is do this, and then imagine that we also build the speaker page right here, and you can do the other page, right? So I can do, I don't know, counter. And if I run this again, you will now load the kind of like same build errors, which is totally expected. Already defines web view. Oh, I copied the thing again. Why didn't you tell me? There we go. So what you do now is point directly into a page of that Blazor application, right? Instead of loading the whole Blazor application again. So what you can do now is now you really have that more look and feel of like we have the tabs separately, right? So I can go to this one page, which I can still entirely build in Blazor, and we have this little popping effect, and it's like all not really consistent too in styling, but that's great. And you can go directly to this thing instead of having like another confusing navigation bar in there, which is very weird, right? So got that. Then should we really quickly try to kind of like mimic this for the speaker page as well? Let's reuse this counter page. This counter page to do speakers, right? Oh, great idea. I'll give you the $20 later. Okay. Can we implement the speaker overview page here in this counter.eraser file and make that pop even more? Make sure that I can do this all day, the profile picture is shown on the left and the name on the right, and under the name the company. Also use a card view. Thanks. Always add thanks. So let's see. I don't know what's going to happen. We only have a few minutes left. So let's just see if again, the other way I would do it, like it's super similar, right? So what you can also do is kind of like, hey, copy most of it over. But again, if it will just do that for me. If I would just ask, like, hey, can you set up the dependency injection, right? We didn't even have to worry about that. We just set up the things in our MAUI program. We injected it through constructor injection. That all worked. Even if it would just do that for me, like all that boilerplate code, that would already be a huge win, right? So here we go. It added an emoji, so that's always a good sign. Emojis are great. Loading amazing speakers. Yes. Now it's really popping. It's popping off. Last session of the first day of NDC Copenhagen. It's going to happen, people. We're going to do it right now. Is it done yet? Now let me create a CSS file. Now it's going to create a CSS file. The other one was inline. No one knows why. But it's going to do these things. It's going to get initials. I don't know why, but thank you for that, I guess. Very interesting. So hopefully this will go through. I think the internet connection is a little bit slow. Let's do this again for Android, just for effect. So the way this works, oh, is it doing things? What are you doing? It's building solutions. See, agent mode, it can just go, right? It will just do things for you. And now it's verifying the build, which is not super useful, which is kind of like messing up my flow. Please don't do that. But that's the cool thing, right? Like, great, the build was successful. Yeah. But that's the cool thing, right? It can inspect kind of like your terminal output right here. It can inspect all these things. It can trigger builds. There is an actual approved list of commands that it can trigger so that it doesn't accidentally format your hard drive, which is cool too. So there's all this stuff that this agent mode can do, and it can do it automatically. It can verify builds, it can see the build errors, it can fix that automatically. So there's this whole flow of things that's going. Okay, are you ready? Do you want to stop debugging? No, I want to see the speakers page. NDC speakers page, loading amazing speakers. Oh my goodness, it totally ignored my request to put the profile picture on the left, but at least we have a profile picture, so that's something. From Raw Power Games. And we have the BIOS right here. Oops, this is not performing at all. Batman. Did you actually enter this? Did you? I'm amazed that the profile picture is working, because that is a bug in the system. Oh my goodness, I keep swiping it to the left and right. So you can see, like, hey, we have card views. I don't know why it's popping more. It's definitely performing less, which is also a little bit inherent to the Android emulator, but there we are. I just need more radiance, yeah. All right, cool. So we only got a couple of minutes left. I got a couple of slides left, I think, too. So what I'm trying, the one thing that I wanted to show you, if we had a little bit more time, was also the navigation, which is, again, at least kind of like you can combine different things, right? If you're gonna do MAUI and Blazor Hybrid combination, then the navigation becomes a little bit different. But if you stay inside of like your Blazor web view, the navigation is going to be the exact same as you would do on Blazor, right? So you have the navigation manager, you say go to whatever the method is, you do the URL that's in your application, and you make sure that you load the data again, right? Oh, if I'm gonna do this again, is it gonna, yeah, it's gonna do that. Okay, cool. Spoiler alert. Swap. Okay, cool. People who have liked the session might also like other sessions. My friend Dominic right here has a session tomorrow on more Blazor and also Blazor Hybrid stuff. Brandon Minnick is also here, who is going to build. So again, a little bit of AI, but not using the AI to build something, but he's going to build the AI in his .NET MAUI app, so that his users are going to benefit from that, right? Which is super cool as well. And this kind of like comes from a project that I'm trying to do because, you know, I go to conferences a lot and with these sessionized things. So I'm trying to kind of like build an app like the NDC app that you already have with .NET MAUI, so that we kind of like dog food our own product and we can see the bugs here and there. But also that we have kind of like an on-the-shelf product. So if you are an event organizer here or a future event organizer, there's this open source project that you can just pull down, plug in your Sessionize ID, and you will have this conference app that you can roll out to your audience for your event, right? Okay, so, oh God, I don't. So thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of NDC, and hopefully there will be a great party here after.